What is up, Full Fire Gamers? It's your boy, Cameraman Dave here, the best looking Dave in Gloucester, without question. Anyway, today we are doing top 10 cards from Secrets of Strixhaven. Now, this set has been highly anticipated amongst our locals. It's looking to be one of the better sets of the year so far. So, without much further ado, let's get into things. But before then, let me just remind you, you can get all your singles and sealed product from Full Fire TCG in Gloucester Docks. Pre-orders are still live for Secrets of Strixhaven. I think we sold out of collector's boosters, but there's still play booster boxes, there's still pre-cons, there's still anything you think you can get your hands on. We've probably got it down at Full Fire TCG. So get yourself down there, and without that, let's get into it. So, start with the honourable mentions. So my first card here is a card called Resonating Loot. It's a red and a blue, and 2 for an artifact. It says lands you control have add 2 mana of any one colour. Spend this mana only to cast instants and sorcery spells. And also tap, draw a card. Activate only if you have 7 or more cards in your hand. So, historically, and the reason why I put this in honourable mentions is mana doubling is incredibly broken. Anytime you get a reasonable cost to double your mana, you should be paying attention. So, the only reason this is as far down as it is because I don't know how you craft a deck around this, whether it's whether it's Jeskai or Teamer even. I think there's a lovely little seed inside Strixhaven itself for Traumatic Critique, which is, I guess, honourable mention 1.5. This card I think is going to see a lot of play in the Spell Elementals variety, certainly, and it probably transitions well in here because of the X cost. So I think this is going to be a player in Standard. I just don't know how the list looks. If it doesn't, colour me surprised. But I think this card is incredibly powerful, and it's more of a matter of if, not when. But moving on, we have number 10, our Harmonized Trio. So, Harmonized Trio is a single blue for a 1-1. Merfolk, Bard, Wizard. There's a lot of wizards in this set, so Flame of Nord Enjoyers, you're eating good. It's tap, and tap to untapped creatures you control. This creature becomes prepared, and its prepared spell is Brainstorm, which is a blue instant. Draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. So why have I pulled this, what looks like bulk rare up? Well, because tapping creatures and casting spells goes infinite with a few different cards. So if you have, for instance, Paradox Engine, not seeing a lot of play in any constructed formats, but a fundamentally broken card, that lets you untap the creatures you use to cast Brainstorm. So if you have a mana rock, so like a Mox Opal, Mox Amber, even just any of the talismans, preferably a blue one, it will go infinite, and you get to see your entire deck, bar 2 cards. So that's interesting. It also goes interesting with infinite with a slightly different card in Jeskai Ascendancy. Similar thing. At this point, what doesn't go infinite with Jeskai Ascendancy? So if you can get 2 creatures plus a mana creature, then again, this is infinite mana, infinite spells, so infinite pump, blah blah blah. Well, infinite enough, I should say. This does basically, Brainstorm will eventually draw you through your whole deck. You can only go so far. Unfortunately, with Jeskai Ascendancy, the problem with Jeskai Ascendancy is you have to register the card. Jeskai Ascendancy is not, as someone who's played it a few times, it's tough. But with stuff like Harmonized Trio, Corey Steel Cutter, stuff like that, you should be able to hit the creatures. It's just getting the mana, I think, with that deck. But that's interesting. And then, like I say, it is a wizard, so Flame of Anor reasons. It's nice to have more and more wizards that are looking a little bit more playable, so that this is turned on more and more. Because when you get 2 modes on Flame of Anor, deal 5 damage, or destroy an artifact, or draw 2 cards. Oh, what a what a value that is. Number 9, Post-Mortem Professor. So this is 1 in the black. This creature for a 2/2 zombie warlock. This creature can't block. Whenever this creature attacks, each opponent loses 1 life, and you gain 1 life. And then for black and 1, exile an instant or sorcery card from your graveyard. Return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So you might be thinking, Dave, why have you put up this junky 2/2 guy that just says when it attacks, drain, and it can't even block? Because of this bottom part of text here. Now, they've left off a line of text which you see on a lot of cards in the modern day, which hampers their playability, and that is a little line: activate only as a sorcery. This can be activated in your opponent's end step. You cannot get these swept off the board unless you've already activated them. Yes, you can't make blockers, but it's very easy to go, okay, I have 4 mana, have 3 mana. Like if you go back to, I don't know, let's say Pioneer, for example. My opponent plays their creature. I've got 3 untapped mana. I Fatal Push it. I exile the Fatal Push. I bring back the Post-Mortem Professor. I am super far ahead on that trade. Even in standard, you've got 1 mana black removal spell, you've got 2 mana black removal spells. It's going to be very, very easy to just keep this guy coming back and back and back and back and back. So I think this is just some great inevitability for like black X control decks, whether that's blue black or something else. I think it's really good. Fits into the room. Whenever a card leaves your graveyard theme, fits into the gaining a life theme, stuff like that. So I think it's a fantastic card, and I think it is probably be underplayed, but I think it's great. In number 8, we have Hardened Academic. So red and a white for a 2/1 flying haste. So discard a card. This creature gains lifelink until end of turn, and whenever 1 or more cards leave your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. So why have I put this up here? Outside of the obvious synergies and standard with stuff like Cool but Rude, Monument to Endurance, stuff like that. Well, this goes infinite with persist creatures. So Murderous Redcap or Kitchen Finks is infinite damage and infinite life, as long as you have a sack outlet. Because of this part, creatures leaving the graveyard. Also in standard, you have a persist giver in Isalu, Carrier of Twilight, which is the backside of the white convoke creature from Law and Eclipsed. All your non-token creatures have persist. So again, there's stuff you can do there that can do potential infinites. So I think this card's going to be very, very interesting. It is, at the end of the day, still a flying haste 2/1 that if you just want to do some exiling, it can grow. And moving on to number 7, I have Sky Coach Conductor, which is a blue and a 2 for a bird pilot 2/3. It has flash, flying, vigilance, which is a lot of words, a lot of keywords, and then it also has this creature enters prepared. Now its prepared spell is called All Aboard. So 1 blue for an instant, exile target non-pilot creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control. It's just very good blue instant flicker. So I put up Quantum Riddler because obviously Flicker and Quantum Riddler go together like cheese and crackers. But this card basically just reads like Restoration Angel, except the important part of Restoration Angel of it gets to flicker something happens when you want it, not right at that moment. So you can do stuff like end of your opponent's turn 3, flash in Sky Coach. If they've tapped down, flash in Sky Coach Conductor. Your turn 4, warp Riddler. All aboard, exile it. Bring it back. Boom. What a board. And you also get to swing with your 2/3. Also, Splash Pool does to specify birds, so you can cycle Splash Pool on Sky Coach Conductor. Basically, turn your Splash Pool into an extra card in your hand and a instant speed blink. This is very vulnerable to removal. That's always been the problem with Splash Pool. And a card that's not on this list, unfortunately, is Daydream, which does a very, very similar thing. I think there probably will be some form of blue-white or blue-white X Blink deck, and maybe this is like your sort of core here. But let's not forget Blink Daddy Shiko. because my god, can that guy do some broken stuff with blink effects. We sort of semi-seen it in standard already with Shiko plus Go Ninja Go. So Shiko comes in, you Go Ninja Go your Shiko, you deal 4 damage to something, Shiko re-enters, exiles Go Ninja Go, you do 4 damage to something, Shiko re-enters. You can do stuff like, you can do that like sort of value loop, and then at the end of it go okay, and then get Sky Coach Conductor and hold up a blue instant to just keep I'm just gonna flick a Shiko if you try and mess with me again, basically. So I think there should be some form of blink deck in standard, and I'm really interested to see what it looks like. Number 6. So now number 6 and number 5, I sort of tossed and turned about where to put them. And I think number 5 maybe sees a little bit more play. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. You probably could swap these around and I wouldn't say anything. But anyway, number 6 we have Emeritus of Conflict. It's a red and a 1 for another human wizard. There's a 2/2, and it has first strike. Whenever you cast your third spell each turn, this creature becomes prepared. So this is not a standard card in any way, shape, or form. If you cast 3 spells in standard, you should probably win the game anyway. Even in dedicated prowess decks, they aren't casting. If they're casting 3 spells, they're usually out of mana. So yes, you could prepare this, but it's not really going to do much after that. So I think ultimately this won't be a standard card, but the further you get back, the more playable this gets, because you get stuff like Mox Opal. Right now, there's a sort of a resurgence in Arroyo decks where they want to cast lots of spells in a single turn, alongside stuff like Corey Steelcutter. So just remember, this counts itself as the first spell, and you can do these like loops, not loops, but almost like value, I guess. Yeah, I call it a loop, a value loop, where I go, okay, Emeritus Conflict. I go, unfortunately this is legendary, so I could get it with Moxamba, but anyway, let's say I play Emeritus, Bauble, Opal, and I've got Metalcraft, just for argument's sake. I played a 1-drop on turn 1. So I've got my Emeritus compared with the ability to cast Lightning Bolt. Now I hold that Lightning Bolt until either they kill it or I go to my turn. Goes to my turn. I now have the first spell, which is Lightning Bolt. Cast 2 more spells. I then re-prepare Lightning Bolt. So you can keep the chain going by just basically having to cast 2 spells each turn, which is what you're trying to do for Corey anyway. And Araya likes a lot of spells in a single turn, so it's like maybe there's some Mox Opal Emeritus deck that, although we already have access to Lightning Bolt, getting it repeatedly is very good. So that maybe could be something that we see happen. But yeah, I'm really interested in this specifically for, I guess, modern. Anything closer to standard, I just is not going to have enough mana to and 0 costs to really make this pop off. Number 5, I have the White Emeritus. If I'm butchering that word, I'm so sorry. I've not been able to pronounce it for the last 6 weeks, so why start now, eh? So this is a white and white for a white and 1 for a cat cleric. Stumbling over my words here. 3/3. When this creature enters, target player creates a 1/1 white and black Inkling creature token with flying. Then, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, this creature becomes prepared, and the prepared spell is Swords to Plowshares, which is a white instant. Exile target creature you control. Exile target creature its controller gains life equal to its power. So, I'm not viewing this card for the right hand side. I'm viewing it for the left hand side, where this is a 3 mana 3/3 that comes with a 1/1 body. There may be scenarios where this part happens, but generally speaking, this will just be a guy that makes two bits of material, one of which is flying, and then maybe I'll get Swords to Plowshares sometimes. Is that good? Maybe. Maybe not in current standard, but probably will be a standard maybe post rotation where that is just fine and good enough. Because I think if you put this card, and again, like a lot of these cards, I think if you put them back into 2015, they'd be insane. But yeah, so I think this is probably the second worst of possibly Emeritus, which is why the green one's not even on here. But I don't think it's as bad as people are giving it credit for. I just don't think it's going to be particularly amazing. It'll just be one of those cards that's like, it's fine. And if there's a blink deck, this might be in a cornerstone of a blink deck. Just keep making extra guys and maybe sometimes get sorts of plowshares. But yeah, moving on to number 4, which is a road. So this is 1 and a white. It's white for an instant. Destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller may search their library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Finally, Path to Graveyard. So this is an incredibly powerful removal spell that is obviously very much like Path to Exile from years past, and Path to Exile was playable in Modern. Will you be able to play a road in current Modern? Probably not. Will you be able to play it in Pioneer? Very likely. Will you be able to play it in Standard? I would assume so. So you have a bell curve with Path to Exile effects or a road, where it's like the creatures are bad, so people aren't really playing a lot of creatures, so a road's bad. And then there's this like middle part where it's like, okay, the creatures are fine. People are paying 3 or 4 mana for their creatures, so a road's really good because you're generally trading up in mana advantage on your opponent. And then they get right to the bottom side of it. If creatures are too efficient, this all loaded into 1s and 2s. Therefore, you killing their ones, you're not often going to get a mana advantage on them, and often you're going to be giving them an additional tempo by giving them the extra land. We, I think, are sitting somewhere in between the high and the low, where there are some powerful cheap creatures, but there are also some powerful expensive creatures. A road against spell elementals is probably going to do a lot of damage to the deck against white X decks. They already struggled against control, which thankfully for spell elementals just wasn't in the format due to other factors. But if they get a road, maybe they come back to the format in a control-esque deck. But yeah, it's going to be super playable, and I know people are sort of marred by Path to Exile's current playability, where it doesn't see any play in Modern, but that's because in Modern your threats are either 1 mana, 2 mana, or they're 17 mana, but you can cast it for 2 mana. So eventually Path to Exile just got out efficient, and there's just better ways to remove stuff now. But Path to Exile is still a playable card, don't let anyone tell you otherwise, and I think a road is going to be one of the best removal spells in the format, quite handily. In number 3, we have an incredibly powerful 1-drop. It's funny enough coming off from a road, which is Exhibition Tidecaller. It's a 1 blue for an 0/2. Djinn Wizard, another wizard for the Flame of Anor Enjoyers. And it has Opus. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, target player mills 3 cards. If 5 or more mana was spent to cast that card, to cast that spell, that player mills 10 cards instead. So that bottom part probably isn't going to come up. But when you cast an instant or sorcery spell, target player mills 3 cards. This is going to be targeting you so often, and just give the spellslinger decks that want to use the graveyard ridiculous velocity. So something like an Arclight Phoenix deck is really going to like this. You play it on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, and then you just start spitting spells out. You can easily mill yourself for 9 plus cards in a single turn. Underworld Breach, obviously this is like cheese and crackers, milk and cereal. Like Underworld Breach, you cast as soon as a spell, this mills you 3 cards, which then the instant sorcery goes back to the graveyard. Underworld Breach, blah 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 blah. As long as you can just keep making mana, Underworld Breach will just keep letting you do it. And then something like Dredge, they used to play crabs, I think, or that might have been the Crabvine deck, but they're already playing Artist Talent, so if they just move away from Artist Talent and move into cards that say draw a card, this mills more than Artist Talent does, generally speaking, and gets the stuff like the Spinkweed Imps and the 3 damage spell into the graveyard a lot quicker. But yeah, I think this card is going to be an absolute fantastic card, especially in older formats. And we're saying this a lot with a lot of these cards, is the further we get back, the better the cards get. Which is good, which I like. But yeah, so standard maybe not so much, but when you get to Modern, probably going to be incredibly playable. So this is actually probably a standard card, and that's Emeritus of Ideation. So that's blue, blue, free for a human wizard, for a 5/5, and it says Flying Wall 2. This creature enters prepared, and whenever this creature attacks, you may exile 8 cards from your graveyard. If you do, this creature becomes prepared, and it's Ancestral Recall. So it's blue for an instant. Target player draws 3 cards. I mean, pot agreed. Like, I put pot agreed up here because drawing cards are still drawing cards, man. Like, it's still gonna be a very good card draw engine if you get this online. And you got to remember, and it's really easy during spoiler season to read the card's text and its casting costs and ignore everything else. This is still a 5/5 with Ward 2. In standard, 5/5s aren't the easiest thing in the world to kill outside of hard removal. Ward 2 is a nice protection to make your opponent spend a little bit more. Can't just use a road, this has to be road plus a bit more mana. Stuff like that. Like, does this unseat Riddler? Probably not. Is this another foil to Riddler? Yeah, probably. So, this doesn't need any extra work. It re-prepares itself, as long as you can keep the graveyard topped up. And drawing 3 cards is still drawing 3 cards, and like I said, it's a wizard. Flame of the Null Enjoyers, rise up, man! It's your time to shine. Time to start dealing 5 damage and drawing 2 cards. But yeah, so before we get to number 1, just want to remind everyone once again that you can pick up all these singles, all these cards you've seen, and any other hot cards that you've seen in the spoilers that you like from Full Fire TCG, alongside any sealed product. Doesn't matter what set you're after, if it's in standard, he's got it. Even if it's outside of standard, he's probably got it. And if we ain't got it, he can probably get it. So get yourself down to Full Fire to get yourself any sealed products or singles that you need. But without further ado, my number 1 for the Secrets of Strixhaven set is Flashback. Maybe a controversial number 1 here. But Flashback is a 1 red for an instant, and it says target instant or sorcery in your graveyard gains Flashback until end of turn. The Flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. So, where have we seen this before? Well, we've seen this on Snapcaster Mage, which was the quintessential blue card for about 5 to 10 years of Modern's history. It's only in the last sort of 5-6 years that it's stopped seeing play. But the effect is still fantastic, but now you get it for cheaper. Yeah, you don't get it in as good a colour, but you get it for cheaper, and it's also an instant and sorcery itself. I think this card is incredibly powerful as you get further back. I think this is going to be in all formats, like not staple, but all-star, because I've put up Phoenix here for your Pioneer and your Modern Enjoyers. We used to once upon a time in Phoenix play Finale of Devastation, which was a spell that let you target an instant and a sorcery in your graveyard, and you cast them. So it was 3 spells in 1 card. This is 2 spells in 1 card, and does a very similar thing, except there's no restriction onto what you need to have 1 of each. It's just a case of, okay, I don't know, you can do it all in 1 turn. That's the beauty of it. You can go Faithless Looting, okay, draw 2 cards. Oh, I drew a Flashback. Alright, chuck a couple of Phoenixes away, Flashback my Faithless Looting. For Flashback Targeting, I have to say Flashback Targeting because it's also the keyword text, isn't it? So, Flashback Targeting my Faithless Looting, cast Faithless Looting for another red, draw 2 more cards. I found another Phoenix, sweet. Bring them all back. It's incredibly powerful at just doing stuff like that. And again, I'm going to bring up Araya because this is another thing that's been on my mind recently, just due to some decks that have been doing well. Is again, when you're building these style of cards, so Araya or the Emeritus deck, you're looking at cards that say this is actually 2 cards. So things like Boomerang Basics, Repeal, and Flashback all say, I actually am 2 cards for the purposes of what you're trying to do. And that to me is incredibly interesting and potentially incredibly powerful. So this is going to be, I think, great once you get back to the older formats. Do we see a return of real Jeskai control? Start doing stuff like flashbacking counter spells, flashbacking. I don't know, all sorts of spells. I can't think of any of the spells they play off the top of my head, but their removal spells, the counter spells. Um, we get to standard, and it's still fine to use flashback. You flashback a lightning helix, flashback an erode, flashback a burst lightning, flashback, I don't know, it'll quencher. It's just so versatile at what it does. Is this going to be a 4 of in every deck? Probably not, unless you really wanted the effect. But we saw Snapcaster used to be 3 ofs once upon a time. Yes, Snapcaster Mage came with a body, but this does the important part of flashback of a Snapcaster Mage, which was get the thing you want to do. And it being instant makes it so much more playable. You can do, we used to do Bolt Snap Bolt back in the day. Now you can do Bolt Flashback Bolt for 3 mana, and that's 6 damage. So I think this card is going to be immensely playable across all formats. I'm incredibly excited for it. I'm incredibly excited for this set because this set is probably, unless Reality Fracture or one of the other sets later on the year, is an absolute banger. I think this set is going to be the foundation for standard, even if it's not right this second. Once we hit rotation, I think this set will be where you're looking for your cards to build your decks. I've already gone through a number of sweet build arounds, sweet removal options, sweet payoffs. This will be the set that builds your decks, even if not now, later. So get yourself some copies of these cards because they are all fantastic. Without further ado, I'm going to love you and leave you, and I hope you guys have a great day wherever you are. Get yourself down to Full Fire, get yourself some singles and sealed product, and party on.